and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 11th August 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and this discussion will include many interesting articles from the Gazette magazine. Right now, our discussion is divided in two components, two videos. The first video is on nanotechnology in agriculture. Now, this topic becomes very important because Indian agriculture is trying to become more productive. And yesterday itself we discussed an important development, right? Innovation of nano urea. And in this regard, we will study in what all ways can nanotechnology be used in the field of agriculture. What are its benefits and what are its disadvantages, right? The second video will contain rest of the articles, which are this day in history on Operation Vijay versus Portugal, not versus Pakistan, versus Portugal. New snapshots. The three important snapshots that we have for today are first on almost permanent change in the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, right? This is because of the climate change. And the third one as well relating to it, which has ascertained, IPCC report has ascertained that it is human influence which is inducing global warming and climate change associated, not just terrestrial and extraterrestrial activities. So the first and third are related to the IPCC report, which is a very important report. And the second one is on Elderly in India 2021 report, presented by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Image of the day is on biomimicry. Terms and concept. The first one, Census to go digital from the year 2021. The second one is PM Kisan scheme. The third one is India chapter of Internet Governance Forum. And the fourth one is the Tiger Reserve from Chhattisgarh. Updates regarding the same. The three editorials we have for you today are one on the resilience of global trade every time after a major crisis, for example corona crisis, for example the crisis of world wars. So we'll discuss the same here. The second one is on the climate deadlines, and the third one on Tibet and how China's policy are getting framed towards integrating Tibet. And the case study of the day is on the use of technology, in this case by NASA, in predicting the sea level rise throughout the whole world. Let us start the discussion. We have dedicated this day in history to integration of India because India got freedom in the year 1947. However, all the territories of India were not integrated to the mainland, right? For example, the French possessions and the Portuguese possessions, right? Now, against Portugal, India did have to conduct an important operation called as Operation Vijay. Operation Vijay was also conducted against Pakistan in the Kargil War, right? So we are talking of the operation against Portugal. Now, this is the operation in which India integrated Daman and Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and parts of Goa also, right? Now, also to note about Pondicherry. Now, this Pondicherry is presently a union territory in India, and it is in 4 different geographical units. This union territory is, right? So it was earlier French possession, Mahe, Yanam, Pondicherry and Karaikal. So these are in 3 different states, one in Andhra and 2 in Tamil Nadu and then 1 in Kerala, right? Do remember the sequence in which they are arranged, right? Also Puducherry is above Karaikal. So these are the French possessions, and this is the day on which Dadra and Nagar Haveli, they got integrated into one union territory. Goa also was a union territory but later got formed into a state, right? So proceeding ahead. The first snapshot is on Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, right? Don't get scared with the name. We will discuss what this AMOC stands for and we will discuss how this is relevant to us. Now, IPCC has presented its very, very valuable report, IPCC 6, and its first component has been released, right, in the website. So this report says that this AMOC, the way circulation used to happen in the oceans, it has changed, and it will get changed completely because the whole circulation will get weakened, right? It will also impact the global climate. So we will discuss what the circulation is about, how does it happen, and what are the conveys, what are the ways in which this impact is going to happen, right? So firstly, solar insolation is happening at different places at different rates. So the equatorial area and the tropical area get more heat, right? The polar areas get less heat. Very simple to understand. Now, because these land areas and ocean areas in the tropical belt are more heated, and that is why the earth tries to balance the heat in 2 ways, right? Through winds, through water flow through ocean currents, etc., right? So this AMOC is a part of the water flow, the ocean currents. So these ocean currents, AMOC, Atlantic cycle, this Atlantic cycle refers to the AMOC, right? And the report says that there will be weakening of this cycle which has been existent for a lot of time. It will impact humans. Why? Because humans have adjusted to the cycle, right? Adjusted to where warm waters are, where there are cold waters, where there is merging of water. Because of merging of water, it is possible that we have more fish production there, and this whole cycle will change. Where there was rainfall, there will be less rainfall, right? There will be drying of Europe. There will be changes in the whole monsoonal belt, right? So this is what is the change. Now, before discussing the change, let us understand what was the original status. Now, water used to flow from equatorial areas towards the polar belts, right? So the red one indicates the warmer water, and the blue one indicates the cold water. So this is the first thing. Water would flow at superficial levels. Why? Because this is warmer water. Warmer water is lighter, and therefore it is less dense. That is why towards the surface. So this is a superficial current. Whereas when the water becomes cold because of participation of the melting glaciers here, it becomes cold and dense. So this cold water subsides. So this is where you will see the blue marks, right? Blue marks are the denser water. So they are at the below surface level, right? So this circulation that you're seeing at Atlantic, this later merges with Antarctic as well. This is called as Antarctic circumpolar current, right? All of it has been impacted because of this changing climate, right? Now how? First thing it says is that global warming and melting of glaciers is reducing the salinity and density of water. Now, what is happening is that since there is an increased flow of water because of global warming from the polar areas, there is more mixing of water. And because more water is mixing, the salt mixed water, the proportion of salt gets decreased. Because of proportion of salt getting decreased, the water gets lighter, right? And therefore, it does not subside because its density becomes less. And because the density becomes less, earlier the water used to subside and then flow, and now it will not happen. So there will be conflict in how the water will flow, and therefore the cycle will weaken. So this is the first impact, right? The first cause for impact. And the second one is there will be an increase. There will be increased warming of Indian Ocean region, and because of this warming, there will be air and water flowing from all these other areas. Air also flowing, right? Because wind flows to these areas, there will be more rainfall here, and there will be less rainfall in the Atlantic, mid-Atlantic region. Since there will be less rainfall here, there will be more salinity. Why? Because the proportion of salts will be high, and there will be more evaporation as usual, but there will be no rain, right? So because of this particular reason, there will be more salinity, and there will be a tendency to have this density, more density of water here, and therefore there will be a tendency for it to subside earlier than before, right? So the main concept behind this was, one, if the salinity is more, the water will be dense, it will try to go down. Two, if the water is warm, it will be light, it will rise up. So because of all these complications, we will see that the whole cycle will get very, very weakened. So this is the update article. Snapshot 2 is on Elderly in India 2021 report. This report is released by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. This is a very important report because it talks about the portion in which the elderly population is going to increase in India in the times to come. We have seen that 1961 to 2021, there's been an increase in elderly population, and this is projected to increase further in the times to come, right? India right now is a young nation, but will be a mid-age nation, just like the Western countries right now, and then will have elder age population in the times to come. And therefore, to have designing policy, we need to have these kind of reports. Now, what is the reason for rise of this elderly population? There are two reasons. One is that there is a decline in the fertility ratio, right? So when there's a decline in the total number of people who are getting birth, that means the population is actually advancing, right? And newborns are getting reduced. So the portion of elderly people will rise. This is one. And the second one is longevity. So first one related to birth, and the second one is longevity. If the total lifespan of a person has increased from 65 to 85, suppose, right? So this is the reason we have more elder population in the country, and this calls for policies, important policies for the elderly population in the country. There are some key findings which talk about how the percentage of elderly population in India has increased. This has also been an impact of the literacy level in the country, because of which the total fertility rate has gone down, right? So this is the update article. However, this article also highlights an important thing, that is the the gender gap in literacy levels of the males and females. So it is almost 2 times. Elderly males are 60% educated and elderly females are 30% educated in India, right? And the problems that they face largely are economic, psychological, home related problems and crime as well, right? Now, important schemes that are related to this particular sector of society are, the first one is Atal Vayo Abhyodaya Yojana. This is an important scheme, umbrella scheme, in which many of the schemes will get integrated, right? The important part to note is that this also has the pension scheme for elders, in which they will get better returns than the normal age people. The second scheme is for, this one is for all the elders. However, there's another scheme, Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme. This is for the below poverty people, right? This scheme is the one which gives 200 to 500 rupees per month to the elderly who are below poverty, right? This has been initiated in the year 1995. This was an important scheme, still continuing, right? And then we have Rashtriya Vayashri Yojana, initiated in the year 2017, and the idea is to assist the poor elders, right, to give them physical assistance and living devices. For example, if one does not have spectacles, they get spectacles. If one does not have assisted limb will be given. If do not have vehicles, 3-wheelers, etc. will be given to them. So this is Rashtriya Vayashri Yojana, right? And then we have, all these schemes have been incorporated under certain policies, national policy for older persons, right? So this is one. And then we have had national awards for senior citizens called as Vayoshreshth Samman. Now please note, this is given to senior citizens or those organizations which have worked in the field of the elder persons, right, in the cause of elder persons. So these are certain important schemes. Snapshot 3 is on human influence on global warming. Now, we have always understood that global warming is impacted through 3 factors. One, human factors, anthropogenic factors, and the second one is terrestrial, and the third one is extraterrestrial. First one is because of the burning of fossil fuels, industrial revolution, etc. The second one is terrestrial, because of Earth. For example, evolution of Earth involves degassing. A lot of gases come out of the Earth. That causes global warming. Methane naturally comes out of Earth, causes global warming, right? So volcanism, etc. So these are processes beyond human control, terrestrial processes. The third one is extraterrestrial. For example, the gap between sun and moon, sun and Earth, right? If that decreases, for example, if the radiations from the sun, they increase, in the lifespan of sun itself, if you see, sun is also expanding with time, right, in its own life cycle. So because of these factors also, extraterrestrial factors also, there is global warming, right? So some scientists used to earlier say that it is extraterrestrial and terrestrial activities which are causing global warming. But this report, this important report, IPCC, a very, very critical report, this time the part 6 of it, the assessment report 6 has said that no, it is human influence which is causing global warming. The report has been named Physical Science Basic, and it says very simply that the impact of humans and natural factors has caused the increase of 1.1 degrees Celsius already since the industrial times. So 1850 to 2020, if humans were not present, this would have happened, right? Simulated natural factors only impacting climate change, global warming. Only this change would have happened. It would be almost flat. But because of human impact, we have increased the level of climate change by global warming, right? So the article says, right, the report says, some very important parts of this report says that in the next 2 decades only, we will achieve 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius of global warming. And this will be the tipping point, right, beyond which a lot of things will be irreversible. The climate change will be irreversible. No matter what we do, it will still be there, right? So we will have an important feature article on this in the coming days. We will also have important articles in the Cosmos, the Geography weekly edition also. However, let me brief some important points of it right now, right? So the article, the main report talks of carbon budgeting, right? It says that there will be increase in ice melt, there will be rise in sea levels phenomenally, and there will be heat waves, storms, flooding, drought activities. They will get increased in the times to come. There will be extreme sea level events which used to happen in decades, right? They will happen almost every year, right? Also, the report says that the Arctic will be ice-free by 2050 in the way we are proceeding. In the way we are proceeding, it is very much possible that we will touch 4 to 5 degrees Celsius of the temperature rise, 4 to 5 degrees Celsius temperature rise by the end of this centenary, right? By the end of 2100, right? There will be longer summers and there will be shorter winters. There will be heavy rains also happening, right? Heavy rains and there'll be drought activities also. So there'll be extreme weather events happening, there'll be increased fires, and because of increased temperature, conducting agriculture activity will become very difficult, right? So these are the important components of the report. The report also says that the permafrost in Arctic region, in Antarctic region, it will start to thaw, it will start to melt, right? So the tipping point, that is the important keyword, and the temperature for tipping point is 1.5 degrees Celsius. The report also talks about the greenhouse gases. It says that there has been an increase in greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and these are through anthropogenic means. So it emphasizes on human impact. This is what this article is about, right? So if somebody asks, has human impacted? These are the various pointers that you will put them. Global temperature has increased, and we need rapid and deep reductions right now. So the article also mentions that yes, we are not at that point, but in 2 decades, in 20 years, we will be at that point if we do not change. The things will be irreversible. And what are the ways we can change? We have to be net zero in emission by the year 2040. And then only we will have only 2/3 chance, not 100% chance, 2/3 chance to have 1.5 degrees Celsius rise. And if we have net zero by 2050, we will have 1/3 chance of achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius rise. This will rise, but that chance will be decreased, right? So this is what the report says. So by 2050, we must have net zero emissions from the whole world. So this is where you and I need to see how much emissions are we contributing to, directly or indirectly, not just through the consumption of the petroleum products, but for example, plastic waste. Now these are all energy intensive, right? We have to see how we can make the whole economy reusable and recyclable. This is a report which is causing a lot of concerns in the international arena. Why? Because this is the 6th report. The first time this report was released, we had UNFCCC, right, conference, 1992. The second time this report was released, we had Kyoto Protocol. The 5th time this report was released, we had the Paris Climate Agreement, right? So, and now we need to have important agreements. The fight will not be amongst people, the fight will be against climate change. So this is the agenda of the day, and this is what the report speaks of, right? Image of the day is on biomimicry. Now this is a way by which certain entities are designed copying the biological mechanisms. For example, in this example, we study how a glue, an artificial glue, can contribute to sealing my wound. For example, if I have got a cut on my hand and there is blood flowing, within 15 seconds, this glue can seal that particular wound. So a process of biomimicry. This is inspired by the organism, the creature barnacle. Now this creature barnacle, it sticks to the rocks, to the surfaces through some kind of glue, and this is how this process has been, this process of mimicking, biomimicry, has been inspired for creating a glue so that the cuts, right, the cuts can be avoided, right? Term and concept. The first term and concept is census, which has to go digital from this year, right? So 2021, the government of India is planning the census to be conducted online. So to be able to create a mobile app and have a repository portal, this is the main requirement. And how census will be carried out will be through people participating in it. So if I have got this phone, I will be able to put in data about my family, and this data will be validated later by an identification number, right? So this identification number will be sent to my phone, and I'll be able to verify, right, with the enumerator. Enumerator is the person who is actually designated to carry out the census, right? So this enumerator will be able to validate this data and through my phone number. So this is how this whole process will be carried out, right? So this is an update. Why? Because during the times of corona, going to physical spaces and carrying out the census is a tough job, and therefore digital census will not only make it a faster and efficient process, but also a safer one. PM Kisan. Now this scheme was initiated in the year 2018. The idea was to give support to farmers, support of 6,000 rupees per year in 3 installments. So 3 installments of 2,000 rupees each. The update is that the scheme has given the 9th phase of installment to all the beneficiaries, right? The beneficiaries are around 12 crore people around the India. They will be selected by the state government in their respective zones, and they will be receiving money with not in comparison to how much land they hold, right? So the government will be deciding who the beneficiary is, irrespective of the size of the land holding that they have. The third term and concept is India Internet Governance Forum, right? Now, Internet Governance Forum is an important body which is a UN-based forum to discuss policy matters regarding Internet, right? How the governance has to be carried out, For example, the participation of people, its inclusivity, the acts of terrorism, the acts of illegal activities that are carried out throughout the internet, right? Now, India chapter has been initiated in India, right? Why? Because India is a very important contributor to internet in many ways. First, it has got the second largest broadband subscription around the world, and the second one is that it has got highest data consumption, right, per user around the world. So therefore, India must have a greater say in internet governance around the world, and that is why this forum has been launched in India. The fourth term and concept is news is Tit Nadi Udanti Tiger Reserve. This is the tiger reserve in the state of Chhattisgarh. You see right here in between are Tit Nadi and Udantati, right? So there is a river which flows. Tit Nadi, the river also flows across this tiger reserve. This was created in the year 2008. And what is the news? The news is that in this tiger reserve, the government of Chhattisgarh has given community forest resource rights to the villages, to the people in villages residing in these areas, inside the core area. So this is the first initiative in India to give these kind of rights in the core area, right? Now, there are two kinds of rights which have been given. Individual habitation rights, which are usually given. So, habitation and cultivation for individual, and the community right, community grazing right, fishing, water access, and forest resource access, right? Now, these rights, in case of the buffer area, were given by the district authority. So, DC would give these. But the core area, this is the first time India has done it in the state of Chhattisgarh, and the government of Chhattisgarh has given these rights in the core area this time, for the first time. Editorials of the day. The first editorial for today is on global resilience during tough times, right? The article initiates by talking about the 20th century when there was World War, and World Bank Institution and GATT, they helped the whole world economy to rise again. There was a crisis in 1970 because of the oil crisis, right? And this is when the International Energy Agency ensured that the crisis be balanced. 2008, there was another world fiasco, right? Financial crisis, and then G20 economies came up. And this is another opportunity for all the countries, right, around the world. And this is where the article again focuses on India and says India has got unique type of challenges. For example, the challenge of the migrant workers, the challenge of the huge population to be vaccinated, right? And this is where India must capitalize on its trade potential. So India must start to use non-traditional products. We have been exporting petroleum products, gems, jewelry, machinery, engineering goods, IT services, etc. We must get into non-traditional products and non-traditional areas of export, right? We have been exporting largely to USA, to China, to UAE, etc. We must diversify that, and we must add value to our products. This is what the article says. The article focuses on two solutions. For example, one is MSME, the rejuvenation of MSME sector to initiate these kind of products and add value, and the second one is product linked incentive scheme for exporting the products out of India. So this is the first article. The second editorial for today talks about the climate change, right? In reference of climate change, the article says the idea is to look at what the science says, what the politics delivers, and economy demands, right? We should not get into populist measures, but only these three important factors should be considered, right? India is most vulnerable. This is what the article says, and India is hotspot to extreme events, right? We will see this in numerous articles about India. The article then says that there are only few sunrise sectors which are not low carbon, and therefore carbon is one imperative for India in these times to come. The third editorial is a very important editorial, considering India's relations with China, considering India's participation in Tibet issues and international relations in the subcontinent region. Now, this article talks about Xi Jinping's visit to Tibet. Now, the important policies on which China bases its relationship with Tibet are four: stability in the region, development in Tibet, the ecology, and the border area consolidation in Tibet region. And this is where the two important crises that came into being do also play an important role. The Doklam crisis, right, the tri-junction between India, Bhutan, and China, and the second one is the crisis at Ladakh, because China wanted to consolidate its border areas, right? Now, the president of China, the premier himself, said that to govern the nation, to govern China, we have to be able to have our borders secure, and to be able to secure our borders, Tibet is the first place we have to look at. And this is where China went into construction, infrastructure construction in terms of the railway system and hydroelectric power at Niamchi. Now this is a place which is very close to the international borders, as close as 16 kilometers close to the international border. This is integrating Chinese population for sure, but this is also irking India because Chinese developments are growing towards the border region, right? Now China has grown its presence in multiple ways. For example, it has had mixed settlements around the border region. So Tibetan population is being mixed with the Han population in the local area. The intercultural marriages are being increased in this area, right? This is how China is trying to increase stability of the particular region so that there may be less rebel from the Tibetan population, right? There is also a development of local militia in the region so that they can also counter when there is an increased defense from India, right? Now, there was also a policy by Indian settlement, right? By Indian organization to have settlement at the borders along Arunachal Pradesh after the 1962 war. So incentives were given, there were more hospitals, there were more food, and there were more tax incentives given for people to settle at the border areas, Arunachal Pradesh, by India. But largely people withdrew because there was peace at the border area. But China is following the same policy right now. And this is what the update from the article. The article also says that China is trying to also curb the Tibetan Buddhism in the form in which the Chinese context can be arranged. That means the supremacy of lamas, right? Supremacy of the lamas should be controlled by the Chinese premier. So this is how China is trying to establish this new balance in Tibet, and this is why this article is important to establish a new equilibrium, right? So Tibet in between India, and then we have China. So Tibet and this new equilibrium has to be balanced with India's response as well. And this is where we must see how Tibet's influence is very important for India. Why? Because you see, Tibet, this red region is Tibet. And this is not only from the northern part, this is also from the eastern sector that Tibet is important, right? So Tibet policy for India and Tibet policy for China both are very important for India-China relationship. So this is the update from the editorial. The study of the day today is on science and technology. Now, technology has helped us in many ways, and this time NASA has developed a website, a tool through which we can understand what will be the level of sea level rise by the year 2150. So around 130 years from now, it has predicted what will be the level of sea level rise, right, on the basis of IPCC's report also. So a lot of islands will get submerged, and this is how the whole report presents itself. Now, you can go to NASA's website and look at this website. I went to this place and I have put a screenshot, right? Now, this is the place where UPSC could ask the question, right? If you try to play with the parameters, one important parameter is this. You see, it says SSP 5 to 8.5, right? So various dimensions of SSP have been given. The decade you can select, right? But UPSC won't ask question from decade. It might ask question from SSP. What is SSP? SSP is shared socio-economic pathways, right? Now, these are the pathways on the basis of which IPCC has presented its prediction for future, right? It says that if we follow a particular pathway of sustainability, we will reach somewhere. If we do not follow a pathway of sustainability, if we follow a different pathway, we will reach somewhere else. And basis of pathway 1, temperature rise will be particular, and on the basis of pathway 5, there will be a different temperature rise. On the basis of temperature rise, we can also predict different kind of disasters happening, right? And to be able to mitigate 5, 4 and 3, there are various steps given, right? So how much contribution each nation has to make, by what time climate neutrality has to be achieved, right? So this is where SSPs are also being spoken of. So sustainability taking the green road. This is the first one, SSP 1. SSP 2 speaks of middle of the road. SSP 5 speaks of fossil fuel development, the way we are actually leading to. So you can actually estimate what will be the sea level rise projection by the year 2150, 130 years from now, by changing the scenarios SSP level, by changing the level of decade, right? So this is a very innovative article. Science and technology is helping us to actually understand and then recalibrate our own goals, right? Scientific goals and goals of economy and ecology. So this is the case study of the day. Thanks for watching.